This is our book of the day, Merlin's Book of Magic. How I came to have my magical powers. Here before you now is my book of magic and wonderment, a tract of mysteries and spells and secrets, whereof some hath spoken, but few have taken unto their own hearts and souls. I leave this book with you, lest my learning upon the mystic path of magic be lost forever. For it is surely true that these mysteries have come forth from the earth and sky, from the forests and the mountain streams. And this magic is the magic of my people, of my forefathers and womenfolk. This is magic from the dawn of the first times, magic which sings true and whose echoes whisper through the ages. This is magic that makes others have perchance lost or forgotten, and so it is that I bequeath it here to you. My name is Merlin. Many know me by that name, and so too I also called Myridin or Merlinus Ambriosus. Some also call me mad, possessed by spirits and intoxicated by demons. Some have asked why it is that I prefer to haunt the craggy mountains or take refuge in caves, or why it is that I love the depths of the forests and the solitary life of a wanderer. For it is true, I find my happiness and my strength in the life of a recluse. Indeed, I liketh best to be by myself, alone with my wild thoughts and my haunted songs. But in truth, I never really am alone, for I find my company amidst the chirpings of the raven, in the dance of the blue butterfly, in the graceful prancing of the deer, in the distant rumblings of dragons. As night falls, then do I become drowsy, and my yield to the radiance of the inner world, in my mind, becometh enchanted by the strange journeys of the soul. I wander through many lands and ages, and speak with birds and animals of this world and the next. There do I meet my spirit helpers in the ways of magic, and I receive it my knowledge from the ancient ones who once walked upon this earth, those who were called to the path of mysteries, did conjure its spell and secrets, and who now dwell in the timeless lands beyond the veil of mist. But more shall I tell you of who I am, and how I came to this calling in the ways of magic and enchantment. For it is said that my spirit father was indeed the devil himself, and that he sought to wreak havoc on a world where prophets, kings, and emperors wished their arrogance to become as powerful as he, to usurp his rightful role as Lord of Magic and host of the forces of the night. And so he did curse those who had forgotten the old ways of nature, and he did mightily for his son who would lead the world away from sanctimonious righteousness and back to the forgotten paths of magic. And so it came to pass that my spirit father did sow his seed in this world, and then take his leave to the nether regions. In this way was his magic born again into the world, and thus did it spread to many distant realms, nurtured and reawakened all the while by those who could hear his whisperings in the wind. I'm Merlin, prophet of the depths, am his spirit son. My dark soul doth sing both unto the heavens and in the dark recesses of the earth. But what of my mother? I knew not her name, for soon after I was born and nursed did she retreat unto the life of religious penance. But this much is clear, that all are agreed that she was an innocent maiden who until my birth had lived a simple life, both pure and good. And it is said that once my spirit father had espied her and sought to make her his lover, he did fill her with dreams of ribald thoughts and visions of sensual pleasures. Now for her part, my mother was troubled by these visions and these passions, in haste did seek counsel from a kindly priest named Blaise, who urged her strongly, her soul for to protect, to make the sign of the cross before going to sleep at night and before rising for her work each day. One night, though, did she take herself to sleep without making all her signs of the cross, and my spirit father hath seized this time to be with her alone within the half light of her room. Thus he did conjure his being into the form of a handsome priest, and appear before her as a counselor and a friend. And soon hath he entranced her with his gentle whisperings of spiritual love and companionship. But having cast aside her fears, now did he begin to entrance her with sensual caresses, awakening in her feelings and emotions not glimpsed before, and yielding to his advances. My mother did spend the night within his arms, her body folding into his, and by morning night time the magical deed was done. Yet when she did awake, there was no person to be seen, and only then did she realize that, unbeknownst to her perchance, she had fallen prey to become love-making with the devil. Then with haste did she seek counsel with Blaise, who, for to put herself at ease that this was a dark imagining in her mind, but to no avail. For the priest did confirm her fears, and hath told her she must surely now be pregnant with this evil seed, that in due course she would give birth to the devil's child. And so it came to pass that I was born. It is said that when I was nestled at her breast, I was a cheerful, smiling child, with chubby cheeks, a delight for any mother and a source of great pride and joy. And Blaise did then baptize me, so to the annual the hold of the devil, and to lay the rest the demons who still lay claim to my soul. But though I was happy of disposition, many thought that I was somewhat strange in my appearance. People who took me in the arms did say quietly to one another, that at times they glimpsed an ancient restless soul residing within this baby's body. That my eyes, while full of life and radiance, yet also showed a depth and mystery that were not of this world, and my body was so covered in soft black down that like that of a young bird. So they named me Merlin, which means blackbird. After this, and perhaps to atone for her terrible transgressions in the way of virtue, my mother did spend much of her time within the covenant walls, praying and making peace with her God. Meantime, Blaise hath fathered me as best as he could, and so it was that my early years were spent more with the farm animals, or wandering alone in the countryside, than playing with the other children in the village. Even though quite young, I did like greatly to take myself away and make my explorations within the forest all alone, for I was never afraid. Sometimes, indeed, I would rest upon a bed of fallen leaves, and rabbits, foxes, and badgers would then come close by, as curious about me as I was about them. Blackbirds and finches would perch themselves above me, and red-breasted robins would sing their sweet songs. Meanwhile, I would close my eyes and float into a reverie, sliding deep within my dreams, wherein these creatures would take me welcomely into their world. Soon, in these times of wonderment, did I learn to speak with the birds and animals, and then did they become my true friends. Now at this time, our land was ruled over by King Vortigern, who had usurped power following the death of King Constantine. Vortigern had seized the throne from Constantine's brothers, Uther and Pedragon, who were forced to retreat to far-off realms. King Vortigern had learnt from those about him that I was a child of the devil, the illegitimate offspring of a convent nun, and that I did appear to harbor within my heart and strange powers that were not of this world. And so it came to pass one day, soon after my 5th birthday, that my mother and I were summoned unto the king's court, and the king did begin to question my mother at length about my strange conception. Upon his soul and mine, my lord king, never have I known the man who impregnated me. She did reply with an anguished voice, I know only one thing. I was resting in my chambers, and there appeared to me a most handsome young prince. He urged me not to be afraid, and began speaking with me in a friendly and comforting way. However, he then took me in his arms and began to kiss me on the mouth. Then he made love to me and made me pregnant. And when I awoke in the morning, he had gone. No one knew who he was or whence he came. A monk in my village told me I had been with the devil. Now did King Vortigern turn to one of his most trusted and elderly advisers, asking him if such a spiritual visitation could indeed be possible. And the wise and learned man hath replied, I have read in the books of our philosophers and in numerous histories that many men have been convinced in this way, as Apuleius maintained concerning the god of Socrates. There are between the earth and the moon certain spirits with whom we call incumbi. They have elements of both human and angelic nature, and when it pleases them, they assume the human form and have relations with women. Perplexed and still unsure concerning these affairs, King Vortigern had now turned his gaze to me. Full well do I remember his lined and wrinkled skin, the menace in his eyes, and his gruff, unfriendly voice. So you are the devil child, young Merlin Ambrosius, he saith, a sneer upon his lips. By what means have you acquired your magical soul? Are you in truth of the offspring of an incubus? For then indeed shall we make claim to test your mystic powers. Yet I was too young in years to gauge the nature of his question, but I did feel within myself the challenge in his words, and I knew full well the magic in my soul would now be put unto the test. King Vortigern now did tell me of the great fortress he was building on Salisbury Plain, for to keep back any threat from the hostile names of Uther and Vortigern. Yet he was deeply puzzled, for even though walls had indeed been fashioned strong and true form thick and sturdy stone, each time the fortress did near completion, then during the night would a rumbling force erupt from beneath the ground, shattering the walls and causing the fortress to come rumble into ruins. And as he spoke, I did half close my eyes, falling once again into a reverie. A swirling mist now arose from all quarters, and a strange, wondrous vision did come before me. I saw two mighty and fearless dragons, one red and the other white, writhing beneath the ground, locked in what seemed to me to be a never-ending combat. Flames did blaze forth from their nostrils as the dragons engaged each other in their deadly contest, shaking the earth around them and wreaking havoc upon the troubled fortress above. And this struggle of the warry dragons brought yet another portent, for I was warned in my vision that the death of the red dragon would portend the death of King Vortigern himself. Then did I convey the import of these omens as well as I was able, for I was still young in the ways of magic and prophecy, and yet the king was loath to heed my truth, for though he was troubled by my words, chose not to heed my warnings. Later hath the king's followers escorted me back unto the village with my mother, and on our arrival there I did overhear the courtiers urging the good priest Blaise to do whatever he might to banish the demons from my soul. But soon I heard as well that my prophecy had indeed come to pass, for Uther and his brother Pendragon did land in Britain with a new army, and did with ease overcome the forces of King Vortigern. And the king himself hath burnt to death his fortress on Salisbury Plain, engulfed by flames, and Uther and his brother then did become joint sovereigns of our land. Several years later, while I was still a young man, Uther and Pendragon took themselves to a war against Hengist, leader of the Saxon invaders, and I knew that tragedy would befall one of our kings. For in my dream I saw two ravens, one clutching a feather in its beak, and the other pierced through its heart by a bloody arrow. Pendragon fell in battle, mortally wounded by an attacker. But Uther did rally his forces and claim a mighty victory, and he was still able to rule, taking the name Pedragon to honor his dead brother. That is chapter 1. This book is written by some secret society guy. He thinks his PhD is in magic. Pretty cool. So, I don't know what this is.